I've had a personal journey, and this journey started right in my childhood, uh, but actually got uncovered when I was, I guess, 22. And this was an issue with my father. My father was the most gentle soul that you could ever come across. Uh, all my life, from childhood through adulthood, not once did he ever scold me, forget, raise his hands, but not even scold me. Not only was he very gentle as a person, but he was extremely empathetic, a tremendous sense of humor, would see, uh, something humorous even in the most serious of situations. Always had a joke ready for almost every kind of situation. And he was exceedingly also intelligent. He did well in his academics. He was a sportsman. He was the captain of his cricket team, and just a well-rounded personality, loved by everyone. Purely because he was such a gentle soul, he would never ever have a bad word for anyone or a bad thought for anyone. I've never seen him criticize anyone. It's just amazing how he was as a person. But there was an issue right from childhood. We used to see him, uh, just go into a different world right in front of us. He would just go into a trance sometimes. He would just get lost. We thought he was getting lost in his thoughts. He would just disappear sometimes, and then I would, as a child, have to go and look for him, and I would find him in some place just sitting in a kind of a restaurant or somewhere with an absolute blank look on his face. And he would go through these kind of situations from time to time. And we never understood it well. We confused it with various kinds of issues, more behavioral issues. Um, and then uh, we went through this process with him and we kind of we didn't pay that much of attention. We thought it was a behavior issue. Sometimes we thought because he was in business can be stressful. He had a way of not bringing problems to us. However bad the problems were, he would keep it to himself. He put us in the best of schools, and we went through some extremely trying circumstances because of his business failing. But his problems became more and more, and there were times when he just would go on a trip and disappear, and then we had to really find out where he was, and we would go. And I remember this was still I was a kid. One of my uncles had to go and look for him, and then finally found him in a hotel room. And he had been sitting in the hotel room for like a few days without even doing anything, without moving out of his room. We took him to a neurologist for the first time, and his neurologist, after examining him, told us that he would need a brain scan. Then the doctor told me that there is an organization, there's a hospital that we could go to where this could be done free of charge, and he asked us to go to NIMHANS. As a process of, a normal process, he had to go through an intake, and a psychiatrist does the intake. And as the psychiatrist met him, and this was probably, I don't know whether the first time he was meeting a psychiatrist, and he was by that time 55 years old. So I was sitting next to him, and I still remember that conversation where he started speaking about how he was hearing voices in his ears, how he was seeing people, and these voices were creating an enormous amount of problem for him. And these voices would come and go, and they were constantly in his ears. And that was the real problem of his headache. His problem was not neurological, his problem was psychiatric. And through this process, then we went through the uncovering of what his real problem was. And his problem was schizophrenia. I went through this process with him, and he got medication for it, and it was a very simple, small medication, very inexpensive. Um, like if I'll tell you, it was like in Indian 25 naya paise, like a quarter of a rupee kind of medication. But what it did was it, and the doctor told us that it's basically a chemical imbalance which creates this issue. It's biochemistry. And he says that this medication basically corrects that imbalance. And, things changed completely for him. I mean, he became, for the first time, we almost had a new person that we were meeting after all our. And he was completely normal. All those things that he had, the symptoms that he had disappeared. Of course, they would reemerge the moment he would not take the medication. So we knew exactly when he was not taking medication because we knew that he would be glazed and he would go into that world. But he he almost got a new father again in that sense. Not that the old one was any of an issue, yeah, but we got someone who was always with us, and we were all suffering. By the way, it's not just he was suffering.
Yeah.
We, as a family, that's the issue with mental health. With mental health, everyone around suffers along with that person, regardless of what that mental health issue is. It's not just the person who's suffering, but all the persons around them are suffering in their own ways. And we suffered. I've had nightmarish situations when I was a kid. I have gone looking for him, fearing the worst, into a city which I have never been to, not knowing where to look for him. Starting from, and I'm talking of when I'm a 14-year-old. It's not like I'm an adult at that time. As a 14-year-old, I'm landing up in a town and I don't know where he is and how to locate him. And I have to go through, almost like a detective process to find out where he is. And finally, I find him in a room where, he's completely, you know, glazed out. I really understood this when I saw this movie called The Beautiful Mind. This was really, I mean, I must have cried in that movie like anything. What the movie made me understand is what my father was going through. Because I never, even then, when he explains it to you, you really don't understand. When you hear someone saying, I'm hearing voices, I'm seeing people. I mean, where do you see people around you? Where do you hear voices? So you can't really understand that process and how difficult it is. It can make a person go completely out of their mind. The movie brings it out so well.
Yeah.
And you know, that's the problem with mental health is that however much you can empathize with the person, you really can't figure out what's happening with them. And their pain is so much more than what you can even think of imagining. So there were many things. I mean, my dad, when I went through this, I realized how many problems we faced in our life, which were as a result of this. And if he had got the help that he finally got, first of all, he would have suffered less, and we as a family would have suffered less. And mental health, just like physical health, if you don't treat it, it could start with something small
Yeah.
and it could become chronic.
Yeah.
So the earlier you catch it, it's just like I could have a cough, and if I don't pay attention to the cough, it could become a chronic cough. Uh,
Yeah.
so similarly, I think for my dad, unfortunately, when he had this traumatic event in his life, uh, I think he should have gone through people around him should have gone, helped him get through a psychiatric help and a counseling situation. Um, and that didn't happen. And that's one of the things which bothers me about this whole stereotyping of mental health people saying that they could be dangerous, they could be violent, they could be unpredictable. Yeah, some mental health situations do cause those kind of issues, but most mental health people are genuinely afraid about their problem and how to deal with it. Many of them are exceedingly gentle people who are much harder on themselves than they are on others. That's been my experience, at least.